Hey quilting friends, get ready for an exciting week. Today we are facing an accelerating challenge that will expand your skills. Are you ready to take your quilting journey to the next level? Let's embark on the adventure together and bring your blocks to life with an extra touch of intricacy. Welcome to week 4 of our Fragment Quilt Along. I'm thrilled that you're back with us. This week is going to be particularly exciting as we dive into the world of foundation paper piecing. We have our small cutting stacks, 4 blocks, 4 and 5 ready. I've already prepared them for you here. And before we begin, I'd like to remind you that you can find all the detailed instructions in your pattern. It's our faithful companion throughout this quilting adventure, so keep it handy. Before we can start sewing, you need your templates. If you have bought a brochure, then you get this page. The brochures come like a garment sewing pattern when the templates overlap in different colors, so it would be easiest if you just cut out the frame of first the green and then later the copy of the red square. Means you need copies. So when you have your printed brochure, you need 10 copies here. If you go with the PDF download, you get single pages and you print out the red one 5 times and the same for the green one. This is block 4, this is block 5. And if you print out the PDF version, be sure to check the measurements. You have to print on either 100% or actual size to get the right proportions. This is a very simple foundation paper piecing pattern. It has only 3 parts, and the numbers of these parts tell you in which sequence you should assemble the block. You start with A1 and then you go forward with A2 and A3, of course. You always sew on the drawing side of the sheet, but you will place your fabrics onto the blank side of the sheet. To prepare our pattern a little bit at the beginning, what I do is I trim off that excess of the sheet we don't need. So it's just easier to move it through the machine. And another thing I like to do is I like to scratch where the seam goes, so I can later more easily rip off the paper. I do that with a pin. And another thing I like to do is I like to draw a pencil line where my first patches have to be placed. So I know this is 1 and 2, the first seam goes along here. So the first seam allowance will be here, and I need that on the blank page. So I flip it over, to mark that edge. If you don't have a lightning table, then you hold it against the window. Now it says I need A1, A2, which in this mirrored case is my yellow and my beige. They will later be sewn together like that. So I flip that one over, right sides together, edges matching. And now I have to flip my template over and place it so that this edge matches my guideline. Now it has to cover the shape underneath completely. I will pin it in place and go to my sewing machine. First, adjust my machine settings and use a stitch length of 1.5, which makes it later very easy to rip off the paper because it's well perforated.
Okay.
I have to sew on the drawing of my template, so I flip it over like that and now draw on the first line between A1 and A2. And I go about 3 stitches over the drawing. I now press my piece 2 in place, where it should be, like that. And want to add my third piece. To get it precisely, I give myself a guideline. So I flip the complete thing over, fold my paper on the scratched line, use my 1/4 inch ruler, trim my excess fabric off, and I now know exactly where to place this diagonal line, like that. I pin it in place and then can go to my sewing machine. Once I have pressed my third piece in place, I can just trim off excess fabric at the given seam allowance lines. Et voila, that wasn't so hard, was it? You did it. Your first block 4 is finished and you now can carefully tear off the paper. Do you see how precise and beautiful your block has become? That's the magic of foundation paper piecing. Now comes the fun part. You get to repeat the whole thing for 4 more times, but don't worry, with each block you'll get faster and more confident. Before you know it, you'll master this technique in your sleep. You now can apply this newly learned technique directly to block 5 and finish your last blocks. Once we have these 10 foundation paper piecing blocks finished, we achieved our weekly goal in this quilt along. You can really be proud of yourself. Before we say goodbye, I'd like to remind you of a few important things. Don't forget to share your beautiful creations with the hashtag Fragment QAL. You have the chance to win a great prize and inspire other quilters out there at the same time. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up. And if you don't want to miss any more tips and tricks about quilting, feel free to subscribe to my channel and activate the bell. Next week we come to the grand finale. We'll be assembling our quilt top. I'll show you how to perfectly insert the sashing strips and the border. I also give you valuable tips for quilting and binding to make your fragment quilt a true masterpiece. I can't wait to take the final step with you and see your finished quilts. Until then, have fun with your finished blocks, happy quilting, and see you next week.